What happens when one of Britain's most outspoken journalists walks onto a morning talk show expecting a friendly chat, only to face a host who decides to turn the interview into a public execution? In just 34 seconds of brutal commentary, a television legend would find herself exposed as the bully she'd been hiding behind her cheerful persona for years, and the guest she tried to humiliate would walk off set, leaving her scrambling to save face in front of millions of viewers. It started like any other morning television segment. Piers Morgan, veteran broadcaster and journalist, arrived at the studio ready to discuss his latest project. He'd been invited on by Lorraine herself, the Scottish presenter known for her bright dresses and seemingly warm demeanor. The set was typical morning television fare: soft lighting, pastel colors, and two armchairs positioned for what should have been an easygoing conversation. Piers settled into his seat, exchanged pleasantries with Lorraine, and waited for the interview to begin. The cameras rolled, the show's cheerful theme music faded, and Lorraine turned to him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "So, Piers," she began, her voice dripping with something that wasn't quite friendliness, "you're here to talk about your new book. Another one. How many does this make now? 12? 15? Piers laughed, thinking it was banter. "It's my 8th, actually, and I'm quite proud of this one because it focuses on some really important interviews I've conducted over the years." Lorraine's smile grew sharper. "Important interviews, right. Tell me, do you ever get tired of hearing yourself talk? Because I imagine that must be exhausting, going through life thinking every word that comes out of your mouth is pure gold." The studio went quiet. Piers blinked, genuinely confused. "I'm sorry, what?" "Oh, don't play coy with me," Lorraine continued, leaning forward in her chair. "We all know why you're really here. You need the publicity because, let's face it, your career has been one long, desperate grab for attention ever since you got sacked from that phone hacking scandal." Piers' expression hardened. "Lorraine, I was never involved in phone hacking. That's been proven time and time again. I came here to talk about my book, not to be ambushed with false accusations." But Lorraine wasn't done. She waved her hand dismissively, as if swatting away his words like annoying flies. "False accusations," he says. "That's rich coming from someone who's built an entire career on making accusations about everyone else. Tell me, Piers, do you practice being insufferable, or does it just come naturally?" The crew members behind the cameras shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't how morning television was supposed to go. This wasn't playful banter between colleagues. This was something else entirely, something mean-spirited and personal. Piers took a breath, clearly trying to maintain his composure. "I'm not sure what's going on here, Lorraine, but this seems incredibly unprofessional. If you had issues with me, perhaps you should have addressed them before inviting me on your show." Lorraine laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Unprofessional? That's hilarious coming from you. You, who've made a career out of being rude to people, out of interrupting guests, out of shouting over anyone who dares to disagree with you. How does it feel, Piers? How does it feel to be on the receiving end for once?" "I've never claimed to be perfect," Piers replied, his voice tight with controlled anger. "But I've also never invited someone onto my show under false pretenses just to attack them. What you're doing right now, this isn't journalism. It's not even entertainment. It's just cruel." The word hung in the air, cruel. And something in Lorraine's expression shifted, became even harder, even colder. "Cruel?" she repeated, her voice rising. "You want to talk about cruel? Let's talk about all the celebrities you've reduced to tears on air. Let's talk about all the politicians you've screamed at. Let's talk about every single time you've made someone feel small just so you could feel big. But oh, the moment someone gives you a taste of your own medicine, suddenly you're the victim. Suddenly, it's cruel." Piers stood up. The movement was sudden enough that Lorraine actually flinched backward in her chair. "I don't need to sit here and listen to this," Piers said quietly. "I came here as a guest, as a colleague, expecting a professional interview. Instead, you've used your platform to launch a personal attack based on your own issues with me. That says far more about you than it does about me." Lorraine's face flushed red. She wasn't used to losing control of her show, wasn't used to guests standing up to her. "Sit down, Piers. We're not finished." "Oh, we're finished," Piers said, already unclipping his microphone. "I'm not your punching bag, Lorraine. I'm not here for you to work out whatever insecurities you're dealing with." "Insecurities?" Lorraine's voice went shrill. "You're calling me insecure? That's laughable. I've been doing this job longer than you've been relevant, Piers. I don't need validation from someone like you." "Then why am I here?" Piers asked, and the question landed like a bomb. If I'm so irrelevant, if I'm so terrible, why did you invite me? Why did you personally call my agent and ask me to come on your show? Lorraine opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She had no answer for that, and they both knew it. Piers shook his head, a sad smile crossing his face. This is what happens when someone gets a little bit of power and forgets how to be decent. You've been playing the sweet, friendly host for so long that everyone forgot you're capable of being just as nasty as anyone else. Maybe nastier, because at least I'm honest about who I am. Get out, Lorraine hissed. Get off my show. Already leaving, Piers replied, dropping his microphone on the chair. Good luck explaining this to your producers. Good luck explaining to your viewers why you spent 10 minutes verbally abusing a guest instead of doing your job. He turned and walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the silent studio. Lorraine sat frozen in her chair, her carefully cultivated image crumbling around her. But Piers stopped at the edge of the set and turned back one last time. You know what the saddest part is? He said, his voice carrying across the studio. I actually respected you, Lorraine. I thought you were one of the good ones in this industry, someone who managed to stay kind despite all the pressures and the competition. But what you did today, this showed everyone who you really are when you think you can get away with it. Lorraine found her voice, though it trembled. I don't need a lecture from you about kindness, Piers Morgan. You're the last person who should be talking about treating people with respect. Maybe, Piers acknowledged, maybe I've been harsh in interviews. Maybe I've pushed too hard sometimes, but I've never pretended to be something I'm not. I've never put on a false smile and lured someone into a trap. That's the difference between us, Lorraine. I might be blunt, I might be confrontational, but at least I'm honest. Can you say the same? The silence that followed was deafening. Crew members stared at the floor, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every excruciating second. Lorraine's hands gripped the arms of her chair so tightly her knuckles went white. This is my show, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. My show, my rules. If I want to call out someone for their behavior, I have every right to do that. Call me out? Piers laughed, but there was no joy in it. Is that what you think this was? Lorraine, calling someone out requires facts, requires specific examples, requires giving them a chance to respond. What you did was just attack me personally because, what, you don't like me? You're jealous? You wanted to score points with viewers who aren't fans of mine? Don't you dare psychoanalyze me, Lorraine snapped. You don't know anything about my motivations. Then tell me, Piers challenged. Tell everyone watching why you really did this. Because it wasn't about journalism. It wasn't about holding me accountable for anything specific. This was personal, and we both know it. Lorraine's eyes darted to the cameras, suddenly seeming to remember that millions of people were watching this unfold live. Her expression shifted, tried to rearrange itself into something more palatable, more defensible. I think, she said slowly, that someone needed to finally say what everyone's been thinking about you for years, Piers. That you're arrogant, that you're self-absorbed, that you think you're better than everyone else? And you appointed yourself to that position? Piers asked. The great Lorraine Kelly, defender of the people, speaking truth to power? Give me a break. This wasn't about holding me accountable. This was about you trying to look tough, trying to prove you're more than just the cheerful morning show host. Well, congratulations. You succeeded. You showed everyone you can be mean. I hope it was worth it. Worth it? Lorraine's composure cracked completely. You come on here, acting like you're above it all, like you're the victim, when you've spent decades making other people feel exactly how you're feeling right now. And the second someone treats you the way you treat others, you can't handle it. You're a hypocrite, Piers. Piers took a step back toward her, and his voice when he spoke was calm, measured, and somehow more cutting because of it. You're right about one thing. I have been tough on people in interviews. I've asked hard questions. I've challenged people when they've said things I disagree with. But here's what I've never done. I've never invited someone on under the guise of a friendly chat and then ambushed them. I've never made it personal without cause. And I've never hidden behind a fake persona of niceness, only to reveal my true colors when I thought I could get away with it. My true colors? Lorraine's voice went up an octave. How dare you? I've been nothing but professional for 30 years in this industry. Until today, Piers said simply. Until today, when you decided that tearing me down would somehow build you up? Well, let me tell you something, Lorraine. It doesn't work that way. Making me look bad doesn't make you look good. It just makes you look petty. Lorraine stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I think we're done here. We were done the moment you started this charade, Piers replied. I'm just the one honest enough to walk away from it. Then walk, Lorraine said through gritted teeth. No one's stopping you. You already tried to stop me, Piers pointed out. Remember, when you told me to sit down that we weren't finished? You wanted to keep going, keep attacking, keep trying to humiliate me on live television. But the moment I stood up for myself, the moment I refused to be your victim, you lost all your power. Something flashed in Lorraine's eyes, something dangerous and desperate. You think you're so clever, don't you? Standing there, acting like you've won something, but everyone watching knows exactly what you are, Piers. You're a bully who can't take what he dishes out. And you're a bully in disguise, Piers countered, which is somehow worse, because at least people know what they're getting with me. You've spent years building this image of yourself as warm and approachable, and you've just destroyed it in one interview. Was it worth it, Lorraine? Was scoring a few cheap shots at me worth destroying your own credibility? Lorraine's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She looked around at her crew, perhaps expecting support, but found only uncomfortable faces staring back at her. I was trying to have an honest conversation, she finally managed, but even she didn't sound convinced. No, Piers said firmly. An honest conversation requires two willing participants. What you wanted was a public execution, and you're angry because your victim refused to cooperate. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Lorraine, but I'm not going to sit here and let you abuse me just because you have a microphone and a camera. Abuse? Lorraine scoffed. Oh, that's rich. I asked you some tough questions and suddenly you're being abused. How convenient. You didn't ask questions, Piers corrected her. You made accusations. You insulted me personally. You brought up debunked scandals. You called me insufferable. You suggested I was desperate for attention. You mocked my work. Those aren't questions, Lorraine. That's a character assassination. The floor manager made a cutting motion across his throat, signaling that they needed to go to commercial, but Lorraine ignored him. Maybe you deserve to have your character questioned, she shot back. Maybe someone needed to finally tell you that you're not as important as you think you are. And you were the brave soul willing to do it? Piers asked. On your morning chat show, where the biggest controversy is, usually whether someone prefers tea or coffee? This was your big moment, was it? Your chance to take down Piers Morgan? Don't mock me, Lorraine warned. I'm not mocking you, Piers said, and he sounded almost sad. I'm just disappointed. I genuinely thought better of you, Lorraine. I thought you were different from all the other people in this industry who smile to your face and sharpen their knives behind your back. But you're exactly the same. Worse, actually, because at least they have the decency not to do it on live television. Lorraine's face had gone from red to pale. She seemed to realize, perhaps for the first time, the magnitude of what she'd done. The facade she'd built over decades was crumbling, and there were millions of witnesses. I think, she said, her voice suddenly small, that maybe we both got a bit heated. A bit heated? Piers repeated. Lorraine, you attacked me from the moment I sat down. This wasn't both of us getting heated. This was you losing control. I didn't lose control, she insisted, but her hands were shaking. Then what do you call this? Piers gestured around the studio. A professional interview? A respectful conversation between colleagues? Because from where I'm standing, this looks like a complete breakdown of everything your show is supposed to represent. Lorraine took a breath, visibly trying to compose herself. Perhaps we should take a break, reset, start over. There's no starting over from this, Piers said quietly. You can't unsay what you've said. You can't undo what you've done. And I'm not interested in giving you a chance to salvage this. So you're just going to leave? Lorraine asked. Just walk off and make me look like the bad guy? Piers stared at her for a long moment. Lorraine, you made yourself look like the bad guy. I didn't have to do anything. You did this all on your own. I was trying to hold you accountable, she said, but the fight had gone out of her voice. For what? Piers asked. What exactly were you holding me accountable for? You never said. You just threw out vague accusations and personal insults. That's not accountability, Lorraine. That's just mean. She had no answer for that. The studio was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the lights overhead. Piers shook his head slowly. You know what the really sad thing is? If you'd actually wanted to have a serious conversation about my career, about mistakes I've made, about things I could do better, I would have engaged with that. I've never shied away from honest criticism. But this wasn't that. This was you trying to tear me down to make yourself feel bigger, and it backfired spectacularly. I don't need to make myself feel bigger, Lorraine said. but there was no conviction in it. "Then why did you do this?" Piers asked again. "Why invite me here just to attack me? What did you hope to gain?" Lorraine looked away, unable to meet his eyes. I thought people would appreciate someone finally standing up to you." "Standing up to me?" Piers' voice was incredulous. "I wasn't attacking you, Lorraine. I wasn't threatening you. I came here to talk about a book. What exactly did you need to stand up to?" The silence stretched out between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Finally, Piers sighed. "I'm leaving now. Not because you've won, not because you've driven me away, but because I have too much respect for myself to stay here and be your punching bag. I hope whatever satisfaction you got from this was worth destroying your reputation for fairness and professionalism." He turned and walked toward the exit again, and this time Lorraine didn't try to stop him. As he reached the door, one of the producers rushed over, whispering urgently, but Piers just shook his head and kept walking. Lorraine stood alone on her set, the camera still rolling, capturing her standing there with no guest, no interview, nothing but the wreckage of what she'd created. She tried to smile, tried to recover some semblance of her usual cheerful persona. "Well," she said to the camera, her voice brittle, "that was certainly unexpected, but it rang hollow. Everyone watching knew exactly what they'd just witnessed. Not a brave host holding a difficult guest accountable, but someone who'd let their own issues and jealousies turn a simple interview into a disaster." The floor manager was gesturing frantically now, and Lorraine finally acknowledged him with a small nod. "We'll be right back, after this break," she said, and the smile on her face looked more like a grimace. As soon as the cameras cut, her shoulders sagged. She sank back into her chair, staring at the empty seat across from her where Piers had been sitting just minutes ago. Her producer approached cautiously. "Lorraine, what was that?" She didn't answer. What could she say? That she'd planned to take Piers down a peg and it had completely backfired? That she'd let her personal feelings override her professional judgment? That she'd just committed career suicide on live television? Around the studio, crew members whispered to each other. Phones already out, no doubt texting friends and colleagues about what they'd just witnessed. Lorraine Kelly, beloved morning show host, had just shown the world a side of herself that nobody knew existed. And worse, she'd done it while attacking someone who'd remained relatively calm and composed throughout. She'd wanted to make Piers Morgan look bad, but in the end, she'd only made herself look worse. And somewhere outside the studio, Piers Morgan was probably already on the phone, telling his side of the story, letting everyone know exactly what had happened in that bizarre, hostile interview. The break ended. Lorraine had to go back on camera and pretend everything was fine. Pretend that the last 15 minutes hadn't just happened. Pretend that her carefully constructed image hadn't just shattered into a million pieces. She took a deep breath, straightened her dress, and plastered that famous smile back on her face. But everyone watching knew the truth now. They'd seen behind the mask, and they'd seen who the real bully was.